Yes, under changes under old business, approval of revised out-of-country field trip. Spanish Club and Science Club will be going to Puerto Rico instead of Dominican Republic. And under personnel, 4, approval of leave of absence with the table.
Okay, thank you. The consent agenda, can I have a motion for 1 through 7, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, superintendent's report. Review of the BOCES expenditures, please.
Actually, give correspondence.
Correspondence, sorry.
Yep, so under correspondence, in your backup notes, just some points of pride. We have 10 high school students that received the Livingston County Teen Recognition Award. Bernie Guzette, Jacob Capitelli, Montgomery Kessler, Mitchell Mattice, Tyler McCowan, Taylor Mills, Jordan Mitchell, Camden Reed, Sawyer Richardson, and Kyle Wade. That'll be in April. Very proud of their work. The parents will be able to attend the dinner in Livingston County Youth Trophy. Also, yet before you, the LCA All-Stars in various sports. Exceptional seniors for boys basketball, we had Cam Reed, Scott Essig, Evan Moranowitz, and Alex Carnes. And then for girls basketball, it was Taylor Mills, and then Kyle Wade was selected to play at the Greater Rochester Ronald McDonald All-Star Game, which will be this Saturday. Last meeting I shared with you, Dan Dickens was selected as Coach of the Year for boys basketball. I'm happy to report that Coach Michelle Carson was selected as the LCAA Cheer Coach of the Year. As I shared with you before, all of our varsity winter teams have earned the Scholar Athlete Award, the New York State Scholar Athlete Award, their team, so that's wonderful. The Calamum High School National Honor Society hosted a Red Cross blood drive here on March 14th at Jones Hall. And then you see some other outstanding achievements from our students on the second page. Therefore. And then I think it was last week, the elementary had their Spirit Week, and you can see per grade level who won the Spirit Award, and then the overall winner was Mrs. Toy in kindergarten. So this is a wonderful week last week as well. And also for communications, I shared with you a letter that I wrote that will be going out to our members of Congress, asking them to extend the waiver for students and parents, actually ends up being for students for free lunches until at least September 30th. Right now, I know at the state level, they have not taken this initiative, so now we're working through our federal legislators to hopefully that they will expand on this, for at least through September 30th, if not for the next year, especially with inflation and the hardships that people are experiencing.
What's the current end date of that right now?
Current end date, I think, is June 30th. Yes.
Can you talk in future costs for district?
If we were to pay for it? If we were to pay for it.
Just on the June.
I know there's 2 states, well, at least one, not states that adopted this. California was one of the 2 states, I can't think of the other. They have adopted this state district, they will pay for all student lunch, breakfast and lunch programs. But again, we will pursue it at the federal level.
What percentage or the lunch percentage gone up since it's been free?
Percentage participation, absolutely, absolutely, yes,
So because the students and families are taking advantage of it.
absolutely.
Okay, public forum. Welcome to the Caledonia Mumford Central School Board of Education meeting. Public forum is next on the agenda. This portion of the agenda is for residents of the district to speak to the board. However, the board members will not respond. This is a time for the board to listen, and when appropriate, a response will be provided to the speaker. Individuals who wish to speak must sign in, state their name and address prior to speaking, and limit their comments to 3 minutes. Comments or questions naming specific personnel or students are to be addressed privately to protect the rights of the individuals. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, libelous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. And who do we have first?
Johnny E. Ross.
Go here.
Yes.
Johnny Ross, I'm the president of the Calhoun Council of Churches, and I'm also the priest at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church here in Camp, and I live on State Street. So I come to ask the board to make a clear and unequivocal statement about not tolerating hate in any form. Yesterday I was called to Tennant Park where I witnessed graffiti of hate against the LGBTQ community saying, kill them, and against people of color by having KKK written on the picnic shelter. I had a meeting last night at my house with the mayor, and the mayor agreed to send out a statement today saying that they would not, that this village would not tolerate hate. The mayor has done that. I'm very proud of Scott. I've just come from a meeting with him and two of the trustees who said the same thing. That letter will be posted on the website. He gave me and other ministers in this community a copy of the letter, and we are posting them on our Facebook pages. You know, it's an odd thing. God has called us together as neighbors without asking our permission to live together. When I decided to move from East Avenue and Brighton to the village of Caledonia, we chose that very intentionally. Long before I was asked to be the priest in Caledonia. And we chose it because it was a lot like our hometown. It's much bigger than our hometown in Kentucky. If you can believe that. But I found in Caledonia something that I missed from home. And that was people who really cared for each other. And I found it in the very first basketball game I attended in this place where there was an announcement made that unsportsmanlike conduct would not be tolerated. I left believing that I had moved to the right place, and I still believe that. Caledonia is my home. I may be from somewhere else, but Caledonia is my home. And I want you to take seriously the fact that while God has called us together as neighbors without asking our permission, God has also called us together to love one another. And you expect that from somebody with a collar on. I mean, you expect that from a clergy. But I spent 30 years of my life as an environmental scientist for the federal and state government in Kentucky. And I learned to love long before I became a clergy. I learned love from my grandmother. A grandmother who, after my dad was shot and killed in Detroit, and I wanted to hate the person who killed him, she said to me, hate is a poison that you will drink, son, and expect someone else to die. I wanted to hate the person that shot and killed my father. I was 9 years old, and I knew I'd have to live the rest of my life without him. The odd thing is, I don't believe that I have. I believe my dad has always been there, and I believe he always will. Because love is stronger than even death. And I know my dad loves me. I would be less than honest if I didn't tell you that I was disappointed in some of the comments made at the last meeting. We don't have to register the same politically to love each other. We don't have to support the same president. We don't have to go to the same church. We don't have to love somebody of the opposite sex. We don't have to be the same color. God only asks us, and demands of us, actually, to love each other. So I'm asking the board to follow in the footsteps of the village leadership make a public statement that hate will not be tolerated by this board or by the people in this community. Folks, we are better than this. We are much better than this. And I know good well there's just one person, perhaps, that scrawled these words in the park. But other people see it, and they believe that they have the right to do it as well. I didn't plan on this remark, and I hope Mr. McKay doesn't mind, but one of the first people that I had a disagreement with in this community was Mr. McKay. And Mr. McKay and I believe, fixed that. And I know I love him. And I know he loves me. In fact, he greeted me tonight and said, God bless you. So I beg you, I plead you, to do this for the kids. Because if the kids see this and they believe we condone it without making a statement, they'll grow up to be adults who will perpetuate hate. Let's live with love and accountability and not hate. Thank you very much.
Anna Metzger.
Hi, my name's Anna from Mumford. I have two kids, one in elementary and one middle school. I'm here for one thing and one thing only. That's my children. I'm not one to sit back and not say something when something is bothering me, like other people I know that just like to sit behind a keyboard instead of reach out and ask questions. After watching the meeting on the 8th, one major thing that came to my attention is the fact that none of you seem to be on the same page, and the intensity is quite awkward, to be honest with you. I feel that there's a big problem with that. Do you ever sit and wonder why so many people lined up to vote this last go-around? I know why. We need and want change as a community, as parents, as alumni, and as taxpayers. This means none of you are ever going to come to agreement on things that are very important to those that leave their money in your hands and their precious children in your hands. I'm sorry, but I do not trust some of you with those decisions. I mean, someone wants to burn our history, stuff that we take extreme pride in because that's what we grew up with. So many sectional titles and wins and sweat being put into being a Red Raider. You guys all act like there's transparency with all of us, which we all feel that that's fantasy. We are finding things out after the fact. I really hope you guys can work better together on this. I know there are a lot of people that feel the same way about certain matters trying to be pushed at the school when our kids should be learning math, writing, history, reading comprehension, etc. But are afraid to say anything because certain groups are going to bully them and talk smack about them instead of really trying to understand why we feel the way that we do. We are here because we care about our children, not to push an agenda. I really hope you guys understand that we are here because we are fed up and there has to be change from that stuff trying to be pushed on our kids. And unfortunately, some people are just afraid to step up and actually say something about it. But when my kid comes home and tells me that he's extremely uncomfortable about a situation that happened at school, absolutely not. And I'm not a mom that's going to just sit back and just watch it happen. I don't work that way. I'm going to come full circle and I'm going to tell people how I feel because it's very important to me. My kids are number one. Thank you.
All right, once we get our technology back up, we will have the review of the BOCES expenditures.
Okay, thank you. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about BOCES expenditures. At our next meeting, we'll talk about actually the administrative costs associated with BOCES as well. So I just want to hit on the big points for you. School Boards Association, you guys are members of that. You can see a slight increase. Finance for BOCES services, you see an increase about workers' comp. Questar expenses and flex benefits, you see a slight increase there as well. Legal BOCES services, so this is our portion as a district to pay for a part-time lawyer that's associated with all 22 component districts. Data processing for BOCES services, basically these are EdTech expenses. Administrative charges, you see a decrease there. That's basically based on their capital debt coming off the books or lighter debt. You'll also see a slight decrease in in-service for instructional support services. Teaching in regular schools and BOCES services, $237,000. Basically, it's all of our enrichment opportunities for our students and also our science kits for the elementary school. Large expense is special education placements, nearly little over $900,000. You'll see a decrease of about $18,000 there. Occupational ed is our career and tech program for our students to take BOCES classes for vocational ed. And then also you see our databases and library services for both the elementary and middle and high school. Licensing is basically our contracts run all of our software, $508,000. And then you see our student management system, which is School Tool, is at $35,000. So you see the rest of the expenses, and I'm going to go through them line by line. You see a modest increase of 1.07% from the previous year. Do you have any questions?
The budget development presentation, please.
Yes. All right. Okay. So tonight we'll review some of the expenditures and all the line items as we've broken it out throughout the year. We'll vote on the propositions so they can be on your ballot here in May. The tax cap was finalized. I'll just simply review that as a reference. So again, tonight we will review all the codes. Our hope would be come April 5th, if the state has an on-time budget, we will then look to adopt the budget on April 5th. If not, on April 19th, which is the last day. So general support, you see it's a modest increase of 0.72%, and it covers all those areas that are listed there. And again, I know as a board you've seen this several times. Instructionally, modest increase of 2.3%, which will take care of all of our instructional programs. We'll be able to maintain all of our instructional programs currently. Transportation, you see a 5.11% increase, as you can imagine. That's predominantly because of diesel fuel. Community service, 2%, $16,000 expenditure to run our community service program, continuing that program for our school community. Employee benefits, you see a large increase here, 11.82%, and that's predominantly based on healthcare expenses. It went up 21.9%, and also our TRS, ERS expenditures to date. Debt service, you see a decrease here, again, debt coming off the books, it's a negative 20%, $1.4 million rather than 1.8. We'd be looking to purchase one bus. This will replace a bus of 2006, really 16 years old, 132,000 miles. That's a proposition we'll vote on this evening. Capital reserve will be to close our current capital reserve, transfer that money into a new capital reserve with a $10 million limit, a 10-year life. As long as the money is in the reserve, you can no longer contribute after 10 years, but you can expend it after 10 years if the money is in it. and it's roughly about no more than $1.1 million that will be transferred. Tax cap remains at 2.14%, as we discussed previously. Capital outlay, we're looking for interior and exterior LED efficient lighting in the middle and high school. Now, there is a chance that we won't be making this change this year. There is legislation out to expand that number to $250,000 per year. So that'd be something that the district may want to consider in future years. So the budget before you eliminates these positions. So if you can recall, the administrators did their administrative budget priorities. So they asked for an additional 0.5 special education teacher. At this point, we will not be able to fill that. We have an unfilled head custodian position. It was created last year, and we will be eliminating that position. The camera that was part of the administrative, we think we probably can be able to purchase that this year. Would not have to wait until next year. We will reduce classroom furniture purchases, both in elementary, middle, and high school, as well from the original proposal. So that's a total reductions of $98,031. So what does that look like in terms of our expenditures? We're $19,019,000 last year. This year is $19 million, roughly $400,000, which is a 2% budget-to-budget growth. So when you look at it right now, because we haven't really talked revenues yet, and we'll actually be talking revenues at our next meeting. As we see it, if nothing changes, we're probably looking at a nearly $304,000 deficit that we will have to close. And it also includes going out with a tax levy increase of 1.99. Just voting trends and budget trends over the last 10 years. You see the averages. Community's been very supportive of the school district. Again, you see tax levy increases as well as budget-to-budget differences. And what we do understand, I think all in Livingston County, that we will have assessments. We reassessed. We heard from the town assessor. So all homes in Livingston County will be reassessed come this April. So in past years, usually when the assessment occurs, the value of the home goes up, but the tax per thousand in general, I can share with you, I own a home here in Caledonia, is most often it's gone down. So the tax per thousand. So that'll be something that the board will have to also consider as we move forward here in the next few weeks. What questions does the board have at this time?
Bob, what was, we went over the reductions from the previous, what stuck? So you listed four or five things that were
Sure. So,
reduced. Did anything obviously?
so whatever's been presented to the board is still in the budget. These are the only thing that's been removed from the budget since our last meeting.
Any other questions? Do we have a hard number for what it would cost to have grade level chairs in high school?
Yes, we do. Becky, can you recall that number, about $8,000?
I don't know.
How about,
I think it was like $8,607.
Okay. That's outstanding. Thank you.
Just about.
So, Jeremy, if you would, what's the 0.5 full-time equivalent special ed teacher expense?
That was roughly about $30,000, that includes benefits, TRS, all that good stuff.
For the 0.5?
Yep.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay, moving on to old business. Approval of the 2022-2023 instructional calendar. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
And a second? Any discussion on this?
They agreed to the
Thursday. That's correct. So SAC will come in the Thursday before Labor Day and also have a day on Tuesday after Labor Day, and students will start on that Wednesday.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and the added item, the change to the Spanish Club field trip?
Yes, so you have it in hard copy tonight, it came in a little bit later this afternoon. Originally, the Spanish crew were attending Dominican Republic. With some of their health orders and so forth, they've worked with the families and the students, and Puerto Rico was their second option, so they will be attending Puerto Rico. They feel it's a safer, better trip right now when they have to begin committing all the money.
It is the Science Club too.
Science Club as well, yes. We have two female and one male chaperones, and I think there's right around 17 students attending.
Is that refundable to students if something happens?
It's refundable if they're, I can point something to that too.
They actually have the option of getting like a travel voucher versus getting their money back at this point. So if anybody can't go, that's the direction that EF Tours gives. So parents knew that when they signed up, that that's the way the money would be reimbursed with travel voucher.
Thank you.
Need a motion for that resolution, please? And a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, new business. We'll do them individually. I have a motion for number one. This is for the student transportation resolution for us to put a bus on the, up to vote to the community. Motion for this, please. Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Item two, the establishment of the Building Capital Reserve Fund. This is again to have this put up to vote, that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, place this resolution on the ballot, that the Board of Education of the Caledonia-Mumford Central School District is hereby authorized and directed to establish a reserve fund pursuant to Education Law, Section 3651, to be known as the 2022 Building Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of financing in whole or in part construction, reconstruction, improvement, and equipping of school buildings and facilities and costs incidental thereto, with the ultimate amount of such reserve fund not exceeding $10 million, plus any accrued earnings on amounts deposited in such reserve fund. The probable existence of said reserve fund being 10 years, but with said reserve fund continuing in existence for its stated purpose until liquidated in accordance with the education law or until the funds are exhausted, and the sources from which funds shall be obtained for said reserve fund being an initial amount transferred upon voter approval of all funds remaining in the 2017 Building Capital Reserve Fund as established by the district on May 16, 2017, and from unappropriated fund balance remaining in the general fund at the end of the fiscal year or from time to time thereafter in such amount as the Board of Education may designate, and state aid received and made available by the Board of Education from time to time related to transportation and or maintenance costs, and any other monies derived from budgetary appropriations or other sources authorized by the voters from time to time, all as permitted by law. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education of the Caledonia-Mumford Central School District is hereby authorized and directed to transfer all funds remaining in the 2017 Capital Reserve Fund as established by the district on May 16, 2017, specifically up to $1.1 million to the 2022 Capital Reserve Fund, and further resolved that the 2017 Building Capital Reserve Fund is hereby depleted and dissolved as a result of this action, and further resolved that the Board of Education of the Caledonia-Mumford Central School District is authorized to take any and all action necessary to to effectuate the creation and funding of the 2022 Building Capital Reserve Fund, as well as any and all action necessary to effectuate the transfer and dissolution of the 2017 Building Capital Reserve Fund as described herein. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Bob, is there any 1 minute, can you, for everybody to hear who that all went over their head, what the purpose of this fund is and why it's so important that we do it?
So the district cannot expend this particular reserve without voter approval. So for instance, we're looking at our next project, probably about the 2025, going to vote in December of 2023 for initial planning. So the money is basically at the end of the school year, if there's any money left over that's not been expended, we would move this into a reserve. And this reserve then offsets the tax levy increase, whatever a project might add. So our last project was no tax levy increase to the community. We're looking at a similar project, probably up to about $8.5 to $9 million with no tax impact as of today. Now, things could happen, roofs could go off, or have some damages that we're not expecting to repair. But right now, we're looking at $8.5 to $9 million, as much as $10 million without any tax levy increase. Does that help?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
Better than the verbiage.
So I'll just go a little bit further. So larger school districts typically will add anywhere from maybe $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 that they're actually taxing each year for a capital project. In their regular tax levy. The smaller districts, it's simply, we can't afford that. It's money that was not spent throughout our regular budget.
So it's our savings every year that we're saving for the future big projects.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's a,
Okay, any other questions on this? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, number 3, acceptance of gifts to the school district. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept the gift donation of 1 pallet of soccer balls. This is in accordance with board policy number 5230. Have a motion, please?
I can make a motion.
And in a second? Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. At this point, can I have a motion for executive session? Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session at approximately 6:33 to discuss the employment and employee history of particular persons and confidential student records protected by FERPA. Motion from somebody? And a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, today we will be going down to a kindergarten classroom because of the work that's taking place across the hall.